Hello everyone and welcome to One Fall Theory. Today we're going to be reviewing SummerSlam 2023. Now I'm going to provide you with a little bit of context before we get started here because this is my first review video on the channel. It is Western Australian Standard Time for me, which means that this Premier Live event happened at 8 AM in the morning. And that might explain some of the reasons why partway through the review and partway through the show, my enthusiasm started to go down and down and down. I thought this kicked off in a really great way, and we started with a great opening from what looked like a skinny Michael Hayes, but of course was Kid Rock for Detroit City there at Ford Field Arena. And the opening contest was Logan Paul versus Ricochet. This was a great choice, I thought. It was a great way to start off the show. Obviously, Logan Paul strategically placed first, perhaps, so that he could jump on that private jet and fly across to see his brother Jake take on Nate Diaz. But I was excited to see this match. I did think in the build-up they could have done a lot more to get Ricochet ready as a more believable opponent, I suppose, with someone like Logan Paul. You were always going to get that great athletic display out of both of them. But of course, we would have known about this weeks in advance, and Ricochet racking up a few credible wins maybe would have meant the match mean just that little bit more. For what it was, I thought it was fantastic. Logan Paul didn't just try to go toe-to-toe in terms of the high-flying and tumbling actions that Ricochet is probably one of the best athletes in the world for doing. His heat spots were really well thought out. And again, Paul, he's got this natural athleticism which really is unbelievable. However, he's not smooth. He's not like Ricochet in that everything looks measured, millimeter perfect almost. Logan has a roughness about him, and that really adds to the legitimacy, so that was fantastic to see. I really did think they did a brilliant job. It wasn't going to be anyone other than Logan Paul taking the win here, and I'm actually really interested to see where they go next. My belief is that what they should be doing is have Logan Paul challenge for a title. If not already, Logan Paul being world champion at this point on the SummerSlam pay-per-view, I think would have meant a lot for that new world title to be established. And we'll see where he goes from here. But so far, he just has not put a step wrong. He knows how to work a crowd. You believe like he's trying to win the match throughout, the sign of a great worker. So he had a good dance partner here in Ricochet, and I was glad that he got that spotlight. And yeah, a solid opener. I can't really criticize it much more. They did a fantastic job. What was next was Cody Rhodes versus Brock Lesnar. Now, I actually didn't think that the show was that stacked in terms of marquee matches. They were billing a quadruple main event. The fact is, for me, I think there were two matches on this show that were really selling it, and Cody Rhodes versus Brock Lesnar was one of them. So for this match to go on second was pretty interesting for me. Obviously, the Logan Paul logistics maybe played a part of that, and the Bloodline was always going to go on last. So look, interesting to put these two here in second place. However, it didn't do the match any harm whatsoever. I thought they did a fantastic job. The promo package to start them off was really different. I thought the music that they played was fantastic. It really set that tone for desperation and for Cody Rhodes to fight from underneath against Brock Lesnar, which was great to see. Just something different to the rock and sort of even R&B and rap that they've been using in recent years. That slow, methodical music was really set the tone very well, I thought. And then as for the match, it was exactly what you'd want it to be. They came out firing, Cody jump starting, but Brock immediately taking over. Some of those throws looked absolutely brutal. Just total disregard, it seemed like, at certain points for Cody's well-being with those throws. Brock just looks in unbelievable physical shape. I know there's been a lot of talk recently about him being in the twilight of his career, but I mean, he could go for as long as he wants, because physically he just looked absolutely immense for this match. And Cody did a tremendous job as well. The urgency was there in everything that he did. It was quick hitting moves throughout the match. And really bought into that struggle. So they told the story well. It was professional wrestling done at its best. You got that spectacle of suffering, the art of agony. It was all really, really well thought out. And Cody Rhodes came away with a win, which is exactly what should have happened. For the trilogy to end, the Crossroads 3 in a row at the end was, if I'm being nitpicky, was a little bit awkward, but after a physically tasking match and trying to move a man that size, absolutely no criticism at all, really. Cody, an unbelievable job, and at the end of it all, the two shook hands, and absolutely perfect. Where we go from here with Brock Lesnar, we don't really know, but Cody Rhodes, man, right now he is the biggest babyface in the business, and if he comes out of this and moves on to a world title, he's placed to carry this company for the next 5 years. So absolutely brilliant. Really happy for both guys. I think the story ended in the right way, unlike what happened to Cody at WrestleMania. So yeah, absolutely brilliant to see. Next up, we had the Slim Jim Battle Royal. Now, this match really has caused quite a bit of controversy among fans, and from what I can see and tell, I woke up this morning and saw Becky Lynch put out an Instagram post saying that she was making lemonade with all the lemons she'd been given recently, and yeah, it felt like legitimate shots fired. So Becky Lynch, Trish Stratus didn't make it onto the main card, but obviously they have a corporate sponsorship here in Slim Jim, and so the Battle Royal was given made card time. And to be frank, there's not much to review here. I did think it was a bit of a waste of time. It went for a long time as well for what it was. Battle Royals, very, very tough to develop any type of story and to really spotlight anyone. LA Knight got the win, which is the right thing. That's about the best thing that I can say about it. An enormous amount of talent in the ring there, and I understand wanting to get them on a showcase event like SummerSlam, but just for the sake of it, you could see a lot of unhappy faces in there. To me, it would have been better off not having that on the main card. Again, I'm not involved with the money there or knowing the corporate side of it, but the pre-show for Battle Royals for me, and having Trish Stratus and Becky Lynch spotlighted, especially considering what your other female athlete offerings on this show were, makes a lot more sense in my view. Now, as I said at the start of this, my anticipation and my excitement sort of started to go downhill. This next match really was the last hurdle that got over. We had Gunther defending his Intercontinental Championship against a returning Drew McIntyre. Really like both of these guys. Again, I think this is exactly what you want from a heavyweight bout. Two believable, physically impressive and imposing athletes. The only thing straight off the bat that starts the destruction of that suspension of disbelief was the fact that they had a female referee. And rather than making this about sex, what I will say, or gender, I will say, you just know straight off the bat that if someone walks into the room that isn't a wrestling fan, it's the immediate visual that you have to explain. Well, this isn't real because if anything physical happened where a referee had to intervene or an official had to get involved to stop the physicality, it obviously is not going to happen with a very small-framed female referee in between two 6-foot plus heavyweight male competitors. Absolutely fantastic there is a range of female referees and representation, and in terms of the matches that were on this card, 100% when there was a female contest, we could have had a female referee, but they didn't do it that way. There were male referees in the female matches, and particularly that visual clash of female referees in the male heavyweight matches is something that just seems like an easy fix to me that it didn't need to happen. So that really was only one of the faults that you could pull here. The actual match was brilliant. Very physical. I thought the finish was really well thought out, with Drew dropping from the top rope and getting crotched on there, and Gunther taking advantage. Again, you can't fault the two guys that were in the ring. Everything around it started to just sort of itch at me a little bit. The referee was one. The second was the commentary team in this match. The announcers almost burying the results while Gunther was making his way to the ring. So before the match even starts, they discuss how Gunther is very, very close to breaking a record. Well, if we've only got 30 days to go, chances are we're going to see him be the longest reigning Intercontinental Champion in history. Pretty unlikely we're going to see a title change. So I know we have to set the scene with the announcements and making light of those statistics, but it did bury the match a little bit in my view. Okay, so we talked a little bit about Trish and Becky not being on the card. What they did put on the card in favour of that was Ronda Rousey and Shayna Baszler. And this is really where the show started to almost come off the rails in my view. the crowd straight away had turned on this. It had massive vibes to Brock Lesnar and Goldberg at WrestleMania 20. The world knows that Rousey's put her notice in. She's not staying, not coming back, by all accounts. So the crowd didn't have a reason to care, and they really let these two know that during the match. And those things are always brutal to watch. So you really can see the potential that Ronda Rousey had was just unmatched. It really was unbelievable. She was going to be the next she was the female Brock Lesnar in my mind, and had the capacity to even go beyond those boundaries that Brock had established coming in as an ex-UFC world champion. But you could see after giving birth and coming back on this second run, her passion just hasn't been there. And all that is fair enough. You know, having a family absolutely takes priority. That's the number one important thing. But it was really sad just to see what could have been not come to fruition. I think they could have managed her a lot better. All throughout her WWE run. And it also meant nothing for Shayna Baszler to defeat her. You know, would it really happen? It's really very, very, very hard to say. So I don't know that it did anything for either person here. It didn't honour Ronda Rousey's legacy, and I don't believe that it set Shayna up for any future success either. So pretty disappointing contest. The crowd went into it, and we were really limited in terms of a reason to care. Next up was the new World Heavyweight Championship. So Seth Rollins taking on Finn Balor. As I said, there wasn't anything particularly wrong with this match, but at this point, all the other interferences and all the other layers that they were trying to add on to their storytelling just started to get into the way of my enjoyment of the show. So Rollins and Balor, it's happened quite a few times, so I understand that we feel like we need to add something new to the mix. But here, for me, there's no clear babyface and heel, and that always puts a contest at a disadvantage from the start. Rollins not a lovable babyface. The choral sing-along, I think, is somewhat grating for quite a few fans. And then with Balor, you know, we had the redemption story being told that he wanted revenge after 7 years. That's a story you can get behind, but he's positioned as the heel. So just a bit of a convoluted way to get there. Then once you add on the layers of Rhea Ripley being at ringside with Dom, and Damian Priest then coming to ringside and being Money in the Bank contract holder, it was sort of a hat on a hat in some circumstances, and that detracted from what was happening in the actual match. So Seth Rollins coming away with the win. Nothing really happened, even though there was lots going on around at ringside. Obviously, they're going to try and drag out this storyline between the Judgment Day having some sort of descent or even leading to a split. Which is a shame, because I think they've only now, just years down the track, got people invested in the Judgment Day as a faction. I think things are just starting to gel and work, so splitting them is an interesting call. We'll see how it goes. I would have more faith in it if the main event didn't go as it did, because we're starting to see stories get dragged out for a long, long time, and perhaps there's something to be said about attention spans, but for me, it was definitely going on for too long. So hopefully they don't do that with the judge. Okay, and here is where we started to come off the rails. We had a triple threat match for the WWE Women's World Championship. Already, the fact that it was a triple threat makes it pretty hard to follow. For the casual viewer, I think, we had Bianca Belair, Charlotte Flair, and Asuka. Now, Asuka winning the World Championship at at Backlash, was the right call in my eyes. I think Bianca had held on to that championship for long enough. But since that time, we've not really seen anything of Asuka. We didn't see, although she got the face paint and the mist, that really has been the only thing that's pushed any sort of story or development for Asuka in the last few months. The fact that there was mist involved, which, very gimmicky. I think there could be a lot more layered character development there. Charlotte Flair, since returning, still hasn't quite, in my view, shook off the ring rust, and again, a triple threat set it up to be awkward, and there were definitely awkward moments in this match. Besides wardrobe malfunctions, communicating in a three-way, very, very challenging to do, and there was no reason for me for this to have three women involved in that contest. So what they did was just convolute it even further. Bianca Belair actually winning with a roll-up after faking an injury to the knee, which the fans did not buy. In my view, I think that you could sense that the arena was going flat once that injury happened, and she came back and got the roll up. And then we had Io Sky come in and cash in the Money in the Bank contract to become the Women's World Champion. Whilst Io had an amazing response from the fans in Puerto Rico at Backlash, I've not seen it since, and I don't think they've done anything to capitalise on it. So the World Championship got onto Io. We'll see where it goes. But the women's division at the moment needs a boost, and I felt like Becky and Trish could have been that, and that wasn't highlighted on this show. So very interested to see what they do with the women's division from here. Charlotte Flair, there's more that can be done here for certain with such a legendary superstar. And Bianca, obviously being champion for less than 10 minutes, I don't think did any favours for her either. And then it was time for our main event. We had Tribal Combat. The longest reigning WWE Universal Champion in Roman Reigns, over a 1,000-day reign, taking on Bloodline member Jey Uso. Obviously, people have had really, really good things to say about this Bloodline storyline. I think the build-up to WrestleMania in particular was fantastic, with the involvement of Sami Zayn and Kevin Owens, with Cody Rhodes on the periphery, challenging for the world title. Since then, we're starting to see this growing swell of, this has gone on for too long. We're seeing too much of the same thing on episodes of SmackDown, and whilst they deliver fantastic promos, everything is so elongated, in my view. The promos go for a very, very long time, and whilst they're delivered well, and probably one of the more authentic feeling things that they have in the product at the moment, this match was another example of not a lot happening for a long, long time. And we had entrances that lasted for what felt like an eternity, and then once they got into the match, there wasn't really much of note that actually happened. So it was essentially no DQ for Tribal Combat, but not a lot happened. There wasn't any big spots, there wasn't any real violence or believable competition between the two. It just all felt a little bit flat. Again, as I said at the start of the video, that could have been my context in the fact that it was mid-morning by that point, but I there was nothing here, and I could sense it from the crowd. I felt that it just went a little bit flat. There was no real belief that challenger Jey Uso was going to topple Roman Reigns, so it was all about, well, what's going to happen to have it taken away from him, which is exactly what happened. After quite a long time, Jimmy Uso came back and cost Jey the championship. So after involvement from Solo Sikoa, a few gimmicks for the Tribal Combat match, that was the end result. Roman Reigns walks out as champion. So it didn't do anything for me, unfortunately. I think the Bloodline feud has gone on for too long now. Another turn in that Jimmy has now turned on Brother Jey. Okay, where to from here? We get Jey and Jimmy. Great. What does that mean for Roman Reigns? I just don't know that people are that invested in the answer to that question at the moment. The opportunity is almost lost now. I'm not sure who it is that topples Roman Reigns, whether they go all the way through to the next WrestleMania and Cody has another chance. But, you know, there's that old saying that really you need to kill a story before the audience kill it for you. I think we're at that point now. The audience feels like it's killing this storyline because it has been going on for so long. You know, without a lot happening, in my view. So, that's the first review wrapped. I'm sorry that it wasn't more positive, but I do think that it had a lot of potential. SummerSlam, an amazing arena. You know, we have some solid stories happening, but for me, it just didn't deliver as I would hoped. And obviously, it seems now that it feels like a mission trying to get through the Raws and SmackDowns just to get to your Premier Live events. We'll see where they go from here. If you felt completely differently, then obviously let me know in the comments section below. I always love interacting with you guys there and hearing those different points of view come across. A lot of what we've done recently has been retro material, so things from the Attitude Era and the Golden Era from the 80s. So I would love to hear from those fans that are still around and that are still watching the product. And until next time, this has been One Full Theory, where we smarten up and smack down.